Welcome to a new episode of the Guru's Perspective. Today, I want to get a few things off my chest. I want to talk about the NFL trade deadline, who I think did well and who I think did poorly as far as getting some of the acquisitions on their team, who I think strengthened their chances to make a good playoff run, possibly making it to the Super Bowl, and who I felt like had no business making any deals at all on the trade deadline. I also want to talk about the NFL and its officiating. I wanted to know, and I wanted to know all you guys' opinion. How do you feel about the refs being held accountable and being fined when they make bad decisions in games? Just poor officiating. I've seen several instances where they should be. I don't know what Roger Goodell or what they're doing behind closed doors, but it should definitely be known, and they should get fined and held accountable for the things that they do and the things that they're not doing on those fields. I want to start off and I want to talk about the game. It happened a couple weeks ago. It was a Thursday night football game. Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Rams. The game was good. It was back and forth. Matthew Stafford ended up getting Cooper Cup and he ended up getting Puka Nakua back. So his weapons was all in and they was clicking on all cylinders. A really good game. The problem with the game was Sam Darnold was throwing the ball out of his end zone. It was a face mask penalty that should have been called for 15 yards, and that drive continued, but they called it a safety. The player knew he messed up too. He had his head on his helmet. He was in disbelief. He knew that he messed up, and they were in trouble because that play was going to be called. They didn't call anything. The LASIK eye surgery site showed, and the ref had a clear path, wasn't even 3, 4 feet away from the play, never called it. Another instance is when the Ravens played the Cincinnati Bengals. It was 3 plays where it was holding penalties. One was on Joe Burrow and two was on offensive linemen. One offensive lineman was standing up, the other was on the ground and being held with a face mask penalty. Now, even if you didn't call the face mask penalty on Joe Burrow, it should have been roughing the passer with, contact to the helmet. They didn't call those. That's still okay. It was a bad play, bad penalties should have been called, and they should have been held accountable for. But then it was another play with Mike Gesicki being held in the end zone. They didn't call all 4 plays, and that was just really sad to me. And I just feel like should they be held accountable for things like that? I definitely feel like they should be fined. It was just really bad. It was poor on their end. Why not call the calls and call the plays when you necessarily need to? I was definitely disappointed and felt like they should have did better, but that's not my job. It's up to Ryder Goodell and the front office to take care of that business because I feel like if a coach or a player criticize them on poor officiating, they'll get fined. But nothing's being done with the refs when they make bad decisions. So yeah, that should be done and they should definitely be held accountable. I want to talk about some of the grades that happened in the NFL trade deadline. I want to start off with the Detroit Lions getting defensive ends Darius Smith for a 2026 seventh round draft pick. And they also gave up a 2025 sixth round draft pick to acquire him. Cleveland gets those 2 picks. And I feel like the Lions end up getting an A because of one reason. We all know how good Darius Smith is, or at least when he played on, the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, and the Browns. He's good at stopping the run, and he's a good pass rusher. So I'm going to give him credit where credit is due. I gave the Browns a C because I thought they were going to have a really good season, and I definitely wasn't really too sure about Deshaun Watson. Yes, he was healthy, but I still feel like they had a really stout and a great defense, and it went all the ways. I was happy that the Browns are paying 11.3 million of his contract right now, and the Detroit Lions are only paying 605,000 of the remainder of his deal for this year, and then I believe they have to pay 11 million next season, which is not fully guaranteed. But with a pass rushing stud like that, I would keep him aboard because we don't know when Aiden Hutchinson will be back. So yeah, I definitely feel like that's something that we need to address, and hopefully they do. I would like for him to stick around because his personality and his attitude fits the Detroit Lions. The Ravens, they acquired cornerback Tre'Davious White. and a 2027 seventh round draft pick. The Rams get a 2026 sixth round draft pick. I gave both teams a C. Tre'Davious White to be able to go to a team that where they can get some help right now, a veteran team who was going to make a really strong playoff run. The Rams right now, they're still fighting for contention. Their NFC West is really bad right now. You don't know who's going to come out on top right now. I believe the Cardinals are 6-4. They've been playing really good football. Then you have San Francisco at 5-4, and they've been pretty much struggling the whole season. So that's up for grabs. But then they still have a chance. I just felt like that was a poor opportunity last night losing to the Dolphins. The Commanders get cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. I like this deal because I feel like that'll help them in their chances with a young, good team. They added some veteran presence. They got a good coach in Dan Quinn and, Cliff Kingsbury. They just clicking on all cylinders right now with the young quarterback, Jay Daniels. It was a head scratcher for me at first because I said they still have the manual force, but then they might want to fit those guys in and play. And they're all in right now with the Commanders. And it went from a team that was a disgrace that everybody's making fun of to a team that's in top contention right now. And the Commanders got Marshawn Lattimore in the 2025 fifth round pick. The Saints get a third, fourth, and a sixth round pick in 2025. I gave the Commanders a B plus because I still looked at it like, well, if you're getting in, Marshawn Lattimore, what was you going to do with Emmanuel Forbes? Are you going to keep him? Do you plan on getting rid of him or letting him walk? So I was still concerned with that. It could have easily been an A. Just felt like it wasn't a reach, but then you already had a lot of pieces over there. But I feel like the struggles with the young, cornerback is the reason why they ended up acquiring Marshawn Lattimore. So yeah, I gave them a B plus. I gave the Saints a B because they're going to have a big salary dump soon, and it's going to be starting with Marshawn Lattimore. So I understood that deal. That's why they get a B. Pittsburgh Steelers get wide receiver Mike Williams, and the New York Jets get a 2025 fifth round pick. I gave the Steelers a B and the Jets a B. The Jets get a B. It was a good deal. I mean, they already had Devontae Adams, so they were able to let him go. Mike Wallace was not Mike Wallace. Mike Williams was getting a lot of the blame over there too, getting his finger pointed at him, and it was just good for him to get a fresh start. I gave the Steelers a B, and the Jets get a B as well on that deal. I also like what the Steelers did with the edge rusher. The Steelers get edge rusher Preston Smith. The Packers get a 2025 seventh round draft pick. Thought it was weird because they already have a really good nucleus on defense. I guess they felt like we might as well get something for nothing for Preston Smith because they probably wasn't going to resign him. The Steelers get an A on that one, and the Packers get a C minus because I was still confused to give up a young, good pass rusher like that. The Dallas Cowboys get wide receiver Jonathan Mingo in a 2025 seventh round draft pick. Carolina Panthers get a 2025 fourth round pick. I gave the Cowboys a D plus. Yeah, I know that's a guy that they were looking at a couple of years ago in the draft. Didn't get him, didn't materialize, so they want to get him now. He's still on a rookie contract for another 2 years. But I gave the Cowboys a D plus and the Panthers a C because he wasn't ever really clicking over there with Carolina. And then they got Leggett. And by them having Leggett, it's time for them to move on and just, take their loss and do what they have to do to continue to rebuild because they're definitely still in rebuilding. Cincinnati Bengals. They get Khalil Herbert from the Chicago Bears. And the Bears get a 2025 seventh round pick. I gave the Bengals a B because they got Zach Moss and they have Brown as, running backs, but it's not really doing anything over there. It's not impacting them in their win-loss record. I feel like Khalil Herbert will bring a little bit of steam over there, and I feel like it's good for depth. Hopefully, if they make a playoff run because they're a game under 500. But the Bengals definitely got a B, and the Bears get a C plus. The Arizona Cardinals acquired edge Baron Browning from the Denver Broncos. Arizona Cardinals get the edge rusher Baron Browning, and the Denver Broncos get a 2025 sixth round draft pick. I gave the Cardinals a C plus. The Broncos get a C. Carolina Panthers. They acquired wide receiver Deontay Johnson. Well, they traded Deontay Johnson for. They gave him to the Baltimore Ravens. And the Ravens, I feel like they got an A minus because that's good depth. I know Shad Bateman's playing really good as A Flowers, but that's still a veteran presence, and that's going to bring just more weapons to a good team. The rich get richer, and I feel like the Ravens right now they struggled with Deontay. He didn't do that well the last game that they played recently, but still I feel like once he start cooking with the team, it's going to be a good fit, especially in the playoff run. And I gave the Panthers a D minus. I just feel like right now they're just trying to clean up some of that garbage that they brought over there, and it's going to be a while. The Jacksonville Jaguars acquired offensive tackle Cam Robinson. And they traded him to the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, I gave them a B, and I gave a B plus to the Jaguars. I feel like it's a good fit for both. I don't feel like the Jaguars are going to go anywhere this year, and it's time for them to start trying to get some draft capital and do what they can do over there. Because I don't feel like it's still going to save Doug Peterson's job, but still it's a good start because the team was so close to being a really good team. They were comparing them to the Lions at one point to now they're going to have to clean house eventually. Tennessee Titans. They traded away wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, of course, and he went to the Kansas City Chiefs. I gave the Chiefs A, but I gave the Titans a B because it's going to clear up some of their, cap space. And at the same time, they already had Calvin Ridley. I felt like it was a head scratcher. Like you got D-Hop, why would you go after Calvin Ridley? I thought at first they was trying to get as many weapons for Will Levis as possible. Didn't materialize that way, and now they're moving on. They're going to try to capitalize on that mistake. Kansas City definitely got an A, and the Titans got a B in that one. New England Patriots, they traded away their edge rusher, Josh Uche, to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs got an A for sure because I feel like Josh Uche was really a good pass rusher over there, but I still feel like New England got a good defense. It's just the offense is not really that good right now. I gave New England an A on that one. I shouldn't, but then I know that they're in rebuild, so hopefully they could get some pieces like to add to the line to help out with Drake May in the future. Tennessee Titans. They traded Ernest Jones the fourth to Seattle, and Seattle basically they swapped linebackers because they end up getting Jerome Baker. I gave the Seahawks a B and the Titans an A plus because right now I still feel like at the end of the day, it's going to help the Titans out more than Seattle because Seattle's a good young team. But I feel like the Titans can get all the draft capital that they can get right now. And it's weird that they just flip picks, but I believe it's going to be something going on like in the compensatory rounds, and maybe it'll help them with depth. Who knows right now? The Las Vegas Raiders, of course, they traded away Devontae Adams to the Jets. I gave the Raiders a B plus and the Jets a C plus because I feel like the Raiders would do better. Hopefully, if they can get some good picks to go with it, they definitely still need a quarterback. I feel like they're missing one sincerely. And the Jets get a C plus. I felt like the whole Mike Williams thing was a mess. It wasn't all on him. And I don't even want to talk about the Jets because they're already a mess as it is. The Cleveland Browns traded Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. I gave the Bills an A and the Browns a D because the Browns are in really bad shape right now, and I don't know what's going to materialize, but good luck for them in their future endeavors. The Houston Texans running back Cam Akers was traded to Minnesota Vikings. I gave the Vikings a B and the Texans a C, and the Texans been struggling pretty much right now too. So I'm really trying to see what's going to happen with that team. It's been really bad with them and what's been going on, and the way they just been giving up and losing big games. You lost to the Jets, and you turn around and you had a game that you could have or should have won, and you let that game drop as well. Two back-to-back losses, and I want to start talking about some of those games right now. I already discussed what went on with the Bengals and the Ravens. This was a really crazy game to me, and the referees decided, that game, and it was poor because of their officiating. But the final result was, I don't even get mad at Cincinnati because they had balls. They said we're going to go for a 2 point conversion and didn't convert, but with all the penalties, they should have got a second chance. I'm just saying. The final score was Cincinnati Bengals 34, and it was 35 for the Baltimore Ravens. Really good shootout, too, because the defenses are really bad. Joe Burrow had 428 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Lamar Jackson had 290 yards and 4 scores. Derrick Henry scored a touchdown in every game, too. And Chase Brown scored, but the player of the game, who won a Hemi Award as well on Monday, Jamar Chase, he balled out, and I was like really loving his game. Right now, everybody loves Justin Jefferson, but I feel like right now, Jamar Chase is the best receiver in the league right now, even with the bad record, even though they only 2 games under. But he had 264 yards and 3 touchdowns. Whoever had him in fantasy, I know had a field day. I want to get right into the game that I was just talking about too with the Texans and how they were struggling. The Texans lost to the Jets, which really surprised me. Then they turned around and lost the game that I thought they should have won. And hey, I'm not complaining because I'm from Detroit. I was really damn proud of the way they fought and persevered and ended up getting the victory. When you look at Jared Goff's stats, man, it speaks volumes. He was like 240 yards passing, 2 touchdowns with 5 interceptions. A lot of them was good tip drill, interceptions, but still, there was 5 interceptions on the day for him. It makes me nervous sometimes because, I know when Goff started golfing, that's how he plays, unfortunately. But like I said, a lot of it wasn't his fault, so I can't really be too down on him and too aggressive when I know there was a lot of good tip drills, and I give credit to, the Houston Texans defense. Stroud didn't really play that well neither. He was 232 yards passing in the air. He had a touchdown, and he had 2 interceptions on the game too, and that cost him the game. John Mechie had a touchdown. He went through so much to get back to the game, so congratulations. Joe Mixon had 46 yards in the score, but he didn't do as well as I thought he was going to do in the run game. Sam Laporta had 66 yards in the score, and I just really felt like it was a good game. The person who I give credit where credit is due is Carlton Davis III, because I was big on criticizing him and how he didn't do anything this year and how him and Terriano wasn't playing that good as our cornerbacks. But man, they balled out, especially Carlton Davis with the 2 picks. He saved us in that game, and he helped us get in position to win that game. Him and the huge sack on James Houston. The final score was 23-26, and you already know how that game ended. Jake Bates' legs been really saving us, man. He had a 55-yarder, and then he had the 50-yarder to win the game to walk off. And it was like going crazy here in Detroit, being 8-1, one of the best records we had in a long time. And I'm just trying to see how they persevere after that, too, because that just shows the grit of a good playoff team. And I just want to know how far that let them go right now this year. I would love to go all the way, but at the same time, you guys don't be mad if it didn't happen that way right now, because I still feel like we got a nice window. San Francisco's window starting to close, and a lot of other teams like Kansas City, and we're going to be there for a while. So, yeah, you guys have something to be excited about in Detroit. I know I am. The game in Munich was bad. I'm not even going to really talk about it for long. Daniel Jones had 190 yards, 2 interceptions, and Bryce Young had 126 yards and a touchdown. And Chuba Hubbard, after making his extension, He had 153 yards on 28 carries and a touchdown, and he played really well. The final score was 17 New York Giants and 20 for the Carolina Panthers, and that's their second game they won in a row under Bryce Young. This was a pretty good game right here. I don't care what nobody say. I'm not really a Kansas City fan. I'm not from Kansas City, but then I definitely like the grit of the champion. When you say the heart of a champion, you had to give credit where credit is due with the Kansas City Chiefs. This game, they were already down 14-0 at the beginning of the game. Denver Broncos couldn't convert or even score. Kansas City made the game 16-14, and at the end of the game, a field goal was decided, and Will Lux got blocked. I don't know, it might have been a miracle, like everybody's saying, but a lot of people are saying too that Kansas City is starting to get too many, injuries on their interior as far as offensive linemen, and too many injuries, period, for them to three-peat. I still feel like, man, they'll go as far as they would like to go if they continue to play like that and find ways to win. But yeah, it was an exciting game. The final score was 16 Kansas City, 14 Denver. The stats didn't really look that well neither. I mean, at first, Bo Nix looked good. He had 215 yards through the air with 2 touchdowns, but didn't score anything afterwards. Kansas City defense shut him down in the second half. Pat Mahomes had 266 yards and a touchdown, and that's not good enough right now for Patrick Mahomes. But they've been doing whatever they had to do to win. And hey, they're 9-0 right now, and the Denver Broncos are 5-5, so that speaks volumes. Congratulations to the defending champions, Kansas City Chiefs. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Washington Commanders was a really good game. I thought the Washington could possibly win, and they still had a chance to win. It was just some rookie mistakes and things that happened mentally, on the defensive end of their ball. But it was really a good game. You can never count the Steelers out. Them being in the playoffs and playing as well as they have. I mean, they had Justin Fields, they was playing good. Then, when Russell Wilson finally got healthy, they're still clicking. So it's like, what can you say about this team that haven't already been said? This is a really great team, and you have to be proud of Mike Tomlin, man, because he's one of the better coaches in the league, and I give credit where credit is due. Russell Wilson had 195 yards in the air with 3 touchdowns. He had a pick on the day, but Jaden Daniels didn't really get much rhythm. He had 202 yards through the air. They didn't let him run. They basically kept him in the pocket, and that's why I believe that's how they won the game. The defense didn't give them a lot, and they were swarming like they always do. Austin Eckler had 44 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Terry McLaurin looked pretty sharp too with 5 receptions, 113 yards. George Pickens really looked good too with the 91 yards and the touchdown, and him and Russman clicking on all cylinders. That's his weapon. And then now you even had Mike Wallace score a touchdown after everything he went through with the Jets. So congratulations to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that game was crazy how it ended. Couldn't be mad at that neither. They had a chance, the Washington Commanders. I thought at first that Ertz got the first down, but he didn't. It was by inches. And so they kicked the ball off. After they did that, it was a 4th down with the Steelers. When they was going to run the play, the guy jumped off sides. That was the game, and that was awesome. Congratulations to Mike Tomlin. And Tomlin and the Steelers has been one of the feel-good stories this year, because when they got Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, I didn't know what they were going to do with him. But the crazy part is Mike Tomlin just a really good coach. He knew what he could get out of the two, and he gets everything out of both of them. And now Russell Wilson's basically giving them the dynamic airplay that they need down the field. And Arthur Smith offense has been clicking with him and his arm. So, yeah, he can make the plays that Justin Fields couldn't. But Justin Fields can run the ball, and I still feel like they wanted to get the best person to win. And I believe right now, after seeing Russell Wilson play these last few games, he's their best chance to win. And that final score was 28-27 Pittsburgh. The Minnesota Vikings and the Jacksonville Jaguars was a funky game. I thought the Jaguars was going to have it. The defense was playing really good, but no disrespect, they do have Mac Jones as a quarterback, and I don't think that was going to help him at all. He had 111 yards and 2 picks on the day. Sam Darnold didn't look any better. He had 241 yards with 3 picks on the day. Very sloppy game. Don't really want to get all deep into it, but the final score was Minnesota did what they had to do to go to 7-2 with 12 points, and Jacksonville had 7. And that was the final score. And that's all I want to talk about with that one. Now, the Falcons in New Orleans was a surprising one for me because Dennis Allen just got fired, from just poor coaching and just not really knowing how to handle the team. The first 2 games, they scored over 90 points. They were 2-0 to losing 7 straight. So something had to give, especially after losing to the Carolina Panthers. This game, they had something to prove. Derek Carr had 269 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns. And Marquez Valdez Scantling looked really good over there. He just came there, but he looked like the weapon that they always needed over there. Missing Rashid Shaheed, too. It was really good to see how well Valdez Scantling played after being cut by the Bills. He had 3 receptions for 109 yards and 2 scores, and he was everywhere out there for them when they needed him. Kirk Cousins had 306 yards through the air with an interception. Bijan Robinson looked really good, too. Off the 20 carries, he had 116 yards and 2 scores. But at the end of the day, New Orleans did what they had to do to pull off the win after a very huge upset last week. And they definitely spoiled the Atlanta Falcons' chances right there at the top because, it still gives the Buccaneers a chance. But then I'll talk about that, too, because they've been struggling. But that final score was 2017 New Orleans Saints. The Buccaneers and the 49ers game was a really good one, too. Very good. I was surprised because I felt like the Buccaneers could have snuck up and got that win, but they didn't. Brock Purdy looked pretty good. He had 353 yards and 2 scores. Baker Mayfield had 116 yards in the score. But the crazy part about it, what I was impressed about was the run game of the Buccaneers, the two-headed monster with Bruce Irving and Rashad White. Bruce Irvin had 73 yards in the score, and Rashad White had 39 yards in the touchdown. They was actually running the ball on San Francisco pretty good that game, which was surprising to me. Christian McCaffrey made it back to the league, and he played in his first game after having a really bad injury. Didn't play most of the year, but you could definitely tell he was rusty. He had 39 yards on the day. The final score was determined because the kicking game. Jake Moody missed 3 field goals, and that's rare for him. He just coming back off an injury, and we know him from being a Michigan Wolverine and how clutch he was with Michigan, but he made the field goal when it counted at the last minute. He made a 44-yarder that made the score 23-20 final score, and San Francisco moves on to be 5-4, and they still have a chance to fight for that division right now, with surprisingly Arizona Cardinals being 6-4. The Buffalo Bills and the Colts game. Buffalo looked a little rusty. I don't know if they were prepared to face a team like the Colts. The Colts is not a bad team, but in the last few weeks, Joe Flacco has been. I'm starting to believe age is catching up with him. Joe Flacco had 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he had 3 picks on the day. One of those picks went back for a touchdown. Josh Allen didn't really do that much better. He had 280 yards and 2 picks. Some picks are starting to come back and hunt him now during the year. James Cook looked really sharp. He had 80 yards and a touchdown. And what I was surprised about is Jonathan Taylor been playing well, but he hasn't gotten the end zone in this game. He had 21 carries for 114 yards. But the final score was Buffalo Bills, man. They always find a way, man. Definitely when Josh Allen scores. The final score was 30-20, and the Buffalo Bills are 8-2. And right now, it's like, should they keep Joe Flacco in when he just lost back-to-back horrible games, or should they just say, man, now that they know that they're not going to be competing and possibly won't go to the playoffs, put Anthony Richardson back in? Let him figure it out. I know that after everything that's been done, he learned his lesson. Let him go out there and do something now, finally, please. This was a weird game to me, and this is the reason why it's been changes with the Chicago Bears, and I will discuss that a little bit further. But New England Patriots and the Chicago Bears. New England Patriots end up winning the game 19-3. Drake May had some flashes. He had a touchdown and a pick on the day, but the defense was destroyed. New England defense stifled Caleb Williams. That's what I'm looking at now. And I'm saying they didn't really do much to fix their offensive line. And I was looking at Good Morning Football, and they were saying, well, right now, they didn't do enough to, have an offensive line where they could have gotten good old linemen in the draft. They ended up getting, Roma Doomsday. Not saying it was good or bad, but they feel like at this point, I feel like at this point, I can't speak for them, that they should have definitely went after an offensive lineman to help protect, because he's been getting sacked a lot. I believe he got sacked 9 times that game, if I'm not mistaken. And the final score was 19-3, and it was awful, especially from a team like New England, who's going to be picking top 4, maybe 5 in the draft. Tennessee Titans and the Chargers game wasn't really that bad because the Tennessee Titans came out looking pretty sharp at first. Will Levis had 175 yards and 2 scores. Justin Hubbard had 164 yards, and he had a touchdown on the day as well. But Calvin really, really looked sharp, man. He had 84 yards, and he had the 2 touchdowns on the day. But at the end of the day, the better team won. The Los Angeles Chargers, 27-17. Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. This was a game that was really crazy to watch. Wasn't really surprised, because when you don't have your guy, which is Dak Prescott, and he's out now for the remaining of the year. But Jalen Hurts had 202 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he had a pick on the day. Cooper Rush was terrible. 13-23 with 45 yards, and it wasn't even close, this game. The 35-6 just speak volumes of Dallas and Jerry Jones saying he was all in, and now what's going to happen after that? New York Jets and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, see, this is a game I want to talk about, and I'm actually glad we didn't face the Cardinals when they're clicking, because when the Cardinals are clicking, they can go up against anybody and win. They just was at the bad part of the year when they took us, and we took advantage because we beat them in Arizona. That was a good win for us now, and that speaks more volumes of, how good we are. Speaking of how well the Arizona Cardinals are playing right now. Kyler Murray had 266 yards through the air and a touchdown, but the defense was just killing too. And they just really looked sharp, man. Well, you never know what that team, they're so Jekyll and Hyde, but to pull together those 2 last games that they did was definitely impressive. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been doing anything this year. He had a few games where he glimpsed like he was the MVP, but other than that, I feel like he's going down from there. He had 151 yards, and they just looked bad the whole game. They just looked like a team who was defeated. They went in there and they knew that they lost this game, and they just wanted to get it over with and keep it moving. They fired Robert Saleh, but there's a lot more stuff that needs to be done over there, and they need to clean house after the season. That's my opinion. But the final score was 31-6. The Monday Night Football game was actually not bad. Kind of get to the point where it was a little crickets here and there, and it was getting boring, and a lot wasn't going on, but it was a good win for the Miami Dolphins. It was a very bad win for the Los Angeles Rams, because the Rams could have been a game above 500, and they're still competing to try to, win that division, because that division is not still out of reach. They're 4-5, and the Arizona Cardinals are 6-4, but Tua had 207 yards and a touchdown, and he had a pick on the day. And Stafford had 293 yards and an interception. Like I said, it was a really funky game, but at the end of the day, Miami did enough to win. And I would like to say congratulations to the Miami Dolphins, because that was a win. They definitely needed to try to stay in the race, but we kind of figured their playoff chances are done with. But at the end of the day, it kind of hurt the Rams. The Rams, I felt like, was the better team on paper in general, and I thought they'd win and move on and, get an opportunity to fight to be the top of that division, but that didn't materialize. I want to hit you guys off with a few stats, too, as well, that I've seen over this weekend. Jake Bates of the Lions is the first kicker in the NFL history to have 55 yards, game-time field goal, and a 50-plus yard game-winning field goal in the fourth quarter in the same game. So congratulations to Bates. I seen somebody say something about him online, and I had to steal it. the Bates Motel. So welcome to the Bates Motel, and we're definitely glad to have him here. The Chiefs won 11 regular season games in a row since Week 17, 2023. In that span, they've outscored their opponents by 67 points. That's the next lowest scoring margin by a team who won 11 regular season games in a row. And that next team was 85 by the 2003 New England Patriots, who had a really good stifling defense. I should know because I was a huge Patriots fan when Tom Brady was there. This is more on the college level right here, but I definitely wanted to express this because this was something that I wanted to talk about, how well Ashton Genting's been playing. He had 23 rushing touchdowns this season, and that's the most by any FBS player through 9 games. And listen to what I said. These are 9 games, and he had 23 touchdowns, and he had 1,700 and some change as far as, rushing yards. So he's going to get the 2,000 and he wanted to get, and he has 23 touchdowns. And that's the most since Ricky Williams for Texas in 1998 when he had 25. There has been 2 instances in the NFL history where a quarterback had 30 plus completions, 300 plus passing yards, 4 plus touchdown passes, multiple 40-yard touchdown passes, and no more than 1 interception, and yet still lost the game. Those 2 instances were Joe Burrow versus the Ravens in Week 5 and Joe Burrow versus the Ravens again just recently. And over the last 3 games, Lamar Jackson has 102 rushing yards and a passer rating of 145.6. It's the only time in the Super Bowl era that a quarterback has had 3 game spans with a passer rating of at least 145, minimum 75 attempts, while also having 100 plus rushing yards. So that doesn't speak volumes. That lets me know right now that Lamar Jackson is clearly the MVP frontrunner. Last 8 games in which the Kansas City Chiefs trailed at any point in the second half, including the playoffs, no other team in NFL history has won 8 straight games of which they trailed in the second half. So that's why I feel like right now the Kansas City Chiefs are really still dangerous, and they're a team that I feel like, regardless of all the injuries, they have an opportunity to prove that they're not only the best team, but I still feel like they can go ahead and they can compete and go for a three-peat as well. So right now, I have to give all credit where credit is due and give respect to that team. Another thing I wanted to bring up too, according to Tom Pelissero, the Bears have fired offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. Chicago has lost 3 straight games and scored a combined 27 points across all 3, which, coupled with unhappy players and struggles on that side of the ball from earlier this season, led to Waldron's outing. So I feel like him being out like that was something that they wanted to do to try to get a fresh start. And on top of that, the Chicago Bears announced that they promoted passing game coordinator Thomas Brown to offensive coordinator, replacing former offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. They say how good of an offensive mind he is, and he's a bright young offensive play caller, and how they look forward to him continuing to play or call the plays for the Bears. But this is the last attempt for me because I feel like the defense has been playing well for Matt Eberflus. I feel like if they don't do anything right now, Matt Eberflus is gone for the after the end of the season. I would be surprised if they lose again, than if he still have a job. And it's funny too, because a lot of the guys that I feel like that was on the hot seat are guys that got fired now, like Robert Saleh, Dennis Allen. I believe Matt Eberflus will be gone soon. There's a couple of guys that still got jobs and they're barely hanging on, like Brian Daboll. I don't think he'll be there, or they're going to at least move on, from Daniel Jones. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if they move on from both, which I don't think that they're still going to make a huge playoff run. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to see what's going on in the NFL. And I know Black Monday is going to be ugly, and I will be discussing that as well. And that will be a special day where I possibly will go on that Monday and just announce all the people who are being released on top of some of the other news I have for the Google perspective. And we all know too that Dak Prescott is gone for the remainder of the season. I don't think that he'll be back after having his injury, and it was season injury. I think they want to get second and third opinion, and it still all came back to saying that it was season ending and he wouldn't be back this season. So Dallas is in for a whole whirlwind right now because not only did Dak get hurt, we thought it was just a hamstring injury he'll bounce back from, that he'll be out in the season ending. And Cooper Rush and not them, going all in, trying to get Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley or anyone who can help better the team. They actually released guys or let guys walk, and the team actually got worse this year. So I'm pretty interested to see what's going to happen with Mike McCarthy because he was definitely one of the guys that I feel like was on the high seat and wouldn't survive at the end of the season if Dallas plays poorly. I know that Jerry Jones loved him and say that he want to keep him around, and it's like you still got to do something because if you don't, then you're going to be in trouble with that franchise. And it's like already people turning their back and going to the Houston Texans, but you're supposed to be America's team and you're a billionaire. You got to figure this out. That's all I really have to discuss right now. And I appreciate everybody who chime in and listen to the Google's perspective. You got ways that you can reach me too. Hobie is my Instagram page, and I put up a lot of my highlight reels on what's going on in the NFL, NBA, MLB, etc. I do the same thing for TikTok, and that's Hugh.Lee6. I put up a lot of highlight reels and different things going around in the leagues and sports for you to check out for your entertainment. The sports guru to you at gmail.com is where you can reach me if you have any questions or anything that you want me to put up and display. Sports Guru to You is my website on Facebook and where I put all my late breaking news. And of course, you're listening to the Guru Perspective. I usually come on at 1 p.m. every Tuesday. I had to change. I had a lot of things I had to do getting ready for the holidays and a lot of stuff I'm trying to do. And I'm juggling so many things at once on top of trying to give you the best content that I possibly can. But at the same time, too, on Wednesdays, we do the Google Sports Session. It's a possibility we might not be able to do it this week. I know that my co-host, he was under the weather, so we'll, figure that out and stay tuned. Thank you, and have a blessed day. Peace, and to the next episode.